traveled extensively. He is currently working for the Office of Admission and Outreach at Ashoka University as a deputy manager for outreach and look after specifically Delhi NCR. Students, this is a great opportunity for you all to note down the pointers that will help you in your career path. Feel free to reach out and ask questions at the end of the session. I request to pay close attention to what he has to say and maintain discipline during the session. So, let's have one photograph. Most of the student, please, I request everyone to switch on your cameras so that we can have a picture, photographs. Now, it's over to you, Mr. Shaurya, and please guide our students. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Sharma. Thank you, Ms. Yadav, for having Ashoka to your wonderful career fair. I remember being a part of it last year as well, and I had a great interaction with all of the students. So, looking forward today as well. And a very good morning to all of you on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. I know it must be really hard for the students to give up on their weekend for something like this, but let me tell you that the school is putting in the effort for you all through these career fairs that happen. So it's great to have you here in numbers. I can see there are about 50 of you, so I'm really glad that so many have tuned in. If you don't mind, ma'am, I'll just start my screen sharing with my presentation. Yeah.
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Awesome.
Pratap, you can remove. Thank you.
All right, I think you'll be able to see my full screen now. So I'll start off. Ma'am has already, my screen is visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. So, ma'am has already introduced myself. I don't think I can introduce myself any better than I've already been introduced. So, I work with Ashoka University. I handle the outreach operations for LENCR. And my main, work when it comes to the things I do at Ashoka mainly includes just communicating the right message across to the potential applicants, to the staff, to the faculty, to the school management, and just make sure that you all, or anyone who I talk to, understands the mission here at Ashoka. The Ashoka University basically is a liberal education university that is located in Sonipat. It's located in the Rajiv Gandhi Education City. Rajiv Gandhi Education City is actually just a small sort of an area, not small, quite huge actually, but it's sort of a small education sort of a city where multiple universities are there, and Ashoka is a part of that entire structure. The main aim of the university is to create and nurture future leaders. So when the founders got together to ideate and to apply their ideas of having Ashoka physically, their main aim was to get education quality that is available in the foreign countries, in Ivy League universities, in the top universities, to India. Reason being because the founders, or generally people who are starting with the new idea of liberal education in India, even with the NEP, we have started realizing now that whatever we have been studying, for example, even me as a student, I graduated from DU in 2014, and I did my BCom honors from SR. So those material that I studied, someone 10 years prior to me, 20 years prior to me was also studying the same material basically. And I can give you examples out of that, where the only things that change are the dates in the text that you're studying, especially at DU. So now I'm glad with the NEP coming in, all universities, I'm sure they'll also be kind of progressing towards what Ashoka or what Kriya, or what Plaksha is trying to do, is to create a wholesome educational experience within the university where students have a lot of freedom, to choose what they want to study. They make informed decisions about their graduation. They have good faculty to study. They have practical hands-on experience. So that's the main aim of Ashoka University, is to get the education quality that is available all around the world to India at an affordable price. Before we go on any further, this is something I really like to talk about, is what exactly is liberal education. Because if we don't understand what liberal education is, what the importance of studying in a liberal education setup is, then there is it doesn't drive you potentially, I feel, to go after this. So to break it down very, very simply, a liberal education university will give you a few things. First of all, freedom to choose what you want to study. So how you like, if you were to go to DU for that matter, once you declare, okay, I am filling the form for BCom honors, and make through, you get the cutoffs and everything, and you get into your college or your university, and you start studying BCom honors from day one. That does not happen here at Ashoka. So what happens is, you come to the university for the first 3 semesters, for literally 1.5 years out of the 3 years of your college. For 1.5 years, you study our foundation courses. Now, these foundation courses are courses from various disciplines. So you will be studying a little of pol sciences, little bit of economics, little bit of critical thinking, little bit of psychology, little bit of history, little bit of maths for that matter. So the reason you do this is so that you can make an informed decision. So when you have the freedom to study all these things through the foundation courses, you pick up a few courses of your own choice. Only at the beginning of the 4th semester, only after you're done with the first 3 semesters, after you're done exploring, do we ask you, okay, what would you like to declare your majors as? When I say declare your majors, this is when you tell us, okay, this is what I want my degree in. I want a BA honors in economics, or I want a BSc honors in physics. So literally after 1.5 years is when you tell us what you want to do, as compared to going to a university where on the first day of the university, or even before that, you have to declare your majors or what your specialization will be. All right. So over here, you have that freedom. Secondly, it's the study of natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities. It's a big misconception, when we talk about liberal, straight away, most would think that it's liberal arts. That's really not the case. It's not liberal arts, it's liberal education. So under a particular method, it's like a pedagogy, it's a method of teaching and learning. Anything taught under this, any natural sciences, social sciences, humanities, anything taught under this will come under liberal education. These days now, liberal education is also being included as a curriculum for doing engineering for that matter, So anything that is taught in this manner is considered to be liberal education, where you have the freedom to choose what you want to study, and also interdisciplinary approach. Now, this, I believe, is the heart and soul of liberal education. So what exactly does that mean? Interdisciplinary approach, very, very simply put, means that if you have a problem in front of you, if you're able to think of that problem with 2 or more disciplines in your mind, if you're able to think of a solution to that problem with 2 or more disciplines, then you would have set to use that interdisciplinary approach. So if I was to give you an example, if there's a problem in front of you, if you're able to think of the problem now, right? I'm not even talking about the solution. I'm just talking about the problem. If you're able to think of the problem that is there in front of you, using economics and pol sciences, using economics, pol sciences, and psychology, using economics, pol sciences, psychology, and geography, and then thinking of a solution to that problem also using these disciplines, using economics, pol sciences, geography, psychology, maths, everything that and you try and solve that problem using every disciplines, drawing from one another. That's what interdisciplinary approach is. And the importance for this is that these days, nothing really works in isolation. You cannot think through just one point of view. That does not work anymore. Everyone is using this interdisciplinary approach, from your Facebook, where not just computer coding and programming is what was required. Design, the layout, the psychology of the people who are coming on Facebook, the geographical access to where all Facebook can reach. Similarly with Amazon, maybe, the way it's been created. So coding, programming is there, then design is there, then psychology is there, then customer service is there, then marketing is there. So, all these things really, really matter now when you want to create a product, or even when you want to, do anything for that matter. You really have to think through various disciplines. Another thing that this does is it really boosts up your life skills, which are, skills like critical thinking. You must have heard of critical thinking, problem solving, communication, social awareness, as you can see in the bottom of the presentation. So these, if you study in such a way, if you are applying that interdisciplinary approach, then these skills start developing in you as well. Now these skills cannot be taught to you, they can only be developed by you. So critical thinking can be developed by you. How do you develop it? Well, you develop it when you apply your brain in a particular manner, where you are not just, reading and memorizing what you're reading, but you're asking questions about what you're reading, or you're asking questions about what is being told to you. If someone says to you that that tree over there is green and has a, bluish color hint on it, now either you can just accept that, or you can have a look at that yourself and say, okay, I observe this, but why is it like this? How is it like this? So that's when your critical thinking, your life skills, your problem solving skills start going up, and they only go up when you actually apply yourself in such a manner. Lastly, it allows for breadth and depth. If you can just see this letter T that is given over here, so the horizontal on the T is your foundation courses. You explore over here, you do what you want over here, and then you go in deeper only after you've decided what you want to do. So that's the T format of education, which is the liberal education format. In traditional Indian universities, I format is followed. So you take everything from the top right here, and then you go deeper down into what you want to study. And like I said, focus on critical thinking, problem solving. And trust me, now it's important. Why is it important to have these skills, or even study this? Because employers, if you're thinking about picking up a job right after university, either you go for like a normal job where you're not really passionate about, or if you want to do what you want to do, literally, employers are looking at these skills. They are not just looking at degrees, because everyone has a degree, everyone can study, everyone can read, everyone can write, everyone can work on the computer. But what makes you different? Do you have the skills that in the uncertain future, if some problem goes on, and even if that's not your specialty, will you be able to handle that problem? Will you be able to communicate that problem across to people? Are you socially adept to what is happening around us? So these skills are very important, and these skills are what make you employable, to be honest. Quick look at this, jobs that will disappear in the future because we are in the fourth industrial revolution, where artificial intelligence is taking over. These are the jobs that are going away as fast as you can see. And a quick example again over here, when I was in Australia, I worked as a tax accountant, I worked as an auditor, I worked in the finance industry. And let me tell you, when I had gone to Australia back in 2015, the demand for accountants in Australia was about 2,500 per year. Now, at this current date, the demand for Australia has dropped from 2,500 to about 500, out of which not even 500, are required over there. Probably 100 or so are taken in. So, literally, I have seen this fall, you know, from my own point of view, as and when it was happening, because you have so many software these days that will do everything for you when it comes to accounting. You have Xero, you have Tally. You really don't need to be an accountant to handle or manage these softwares. Anyone and everyone can do it. Similarly, architects, stock traders, pilots, there are so many softwares now that are being developed, that these jobs in the future will definitely disappear, and the jobs that will survive are the ones where you really require that human touch, the human connect, research and strategic jobs, empathy-centric jobs, creatives, environmentalists, and like I said, the skills that you will need. Employers are looking at these skills: creativity, critical thinking, interpersonal communication skills. You can see it through the pandemic itself. Everyone has to adapt. So these skills kind of prove that you will be able to adapt to an uncertain future. Now, moving on to the undergrad program, like I said, we have 6 semesters which range across 3 years. At the end of these 3 years, you either get a BA honors or a BSc honors, depending on what you declare as your major. Your major will decide what degree you get. When you talk about major and minor, the difference is you major in something that is of your choice, that you go deeper into that, and your minor complements your majors, basically. So you get your degree in a major. Now, when you come into the university, like I said, you have the freedom. So you'll do the foundation courses, you'll do a few courses of your own choice. And at the beginning of the 4th semester, you will declare your majors and minors to us. Along with your majors and minors, you will have to declare 2 co-curricular courses as well. So, your foundation courses, your major, your minor, and your co-curricular courses will make up your 3 years at Ashoka. We also have a 4th year, which is optional. Gives you a postgraduate diploma in advanced studies and research. And a lot of good can happen in this 4th year. You can go deeper into your studies. You have an option to take up another minor in this fourth year, study some more. So I'll talk about this just in a couple of slides from now. These are the foundation courses. Like I said, if you can quickly have a look at them, from sciences to pol sciences, mind and behavior psychology, environmental studies, economics, literature, and the world. You literally study a lot of these things, and you have to take 4 of them in the first semester, and then you can just take 2 of them in the second semester and 2 of some other course of your choice, and similarly in the next semester as well. You have to finish these foundation courses over a span of 3 years. Basically, a lot of students finish them in the first 3 semesters so that they can just focus on the majors and minors from the 4th semester onwards. And these are the majors and minors. Now your majors will decide what degree you get. Okay, so if you take biology, chemistry, you'll get a BSc in biology, or a BSc in chemistry, a BSc in computer sciences, a BA honors in economics. So your majors will decide what degree you get. And at the beginning of the 4th semester, you have to choose one major, and along with one major, you have to choose one minor as well. So your minors can be entrepreneurship, environmental studies, international relations, media studies, visual performing, creative writing. Or your minors can also come from the list of the majors. So you can choose any one of these majors as a minor as well. And along with this major and minor, you have to choose 2 co-curriculars. So any 2 from art, film, performing arts, languages, photography, theater. Literally, you can design your own degree, and 200 plus combinations can be made. I'll quickly give you an example. For example, if I take English as my majors, I can take media studies as my minors. Or I can also take English as my majors and economics as my minors, or history as my minors, or mathematics as my minors. So literally, I can, choose the minors from the list of majors as well and just study those. If there's this interdisciplinary major column that is there, so these are already a combination of 2 or more disciplines, so you don't have to take any minor along with that. If you take something like economics and history, along with economics and history, you'll only take 2 co-curriculars, that is something from art, film, performing arts, language. You don't have to choose another minor along with this. Interdisciplinary majors are already a combination of major and minor, at least, if not more subjects than that. All right, so now just a few pointers over here. So anyone who wants to pursue computer sciences, economics, physics, and mathematics, it's mandatory for you to have maths in your senior classes. And if you want to pursue physics in your at the undergrad level, then it's mandatory for you to have physics and maths in your senior classes. Apart from that, there is no other pre-requirement. A lot of students ask that do I need to have biology to pursue psychology? There is no such thing. All right, so only for these 4 particular courses, computer sciences, economics, mathematics, and physics, you need to have maths in your senior classes, and for physics, you need to have physics and maths. We are really proud of the sciences at Ashoka, only because we are encouraging students to get into sciences, to actually study sciences, and discover over here as well what are the things that you can do, except from going to the traditional routes of becoming an engineer or a doctor. We encourage students to study science, get into a scientific research, whether you study physics to become a physicist, whether you study chemistry to become a chemist, whether you study biology to become a biologist or a botanist. So we really encourage sciences in such a way where we focus a lot on research that happens at the university, whether it's you shadowing the faculty that is doing their research work as well, or spending hours and hours in the practical computer labs or the scientific science labs that are there at Ashoka, and get hands-on experience over there, and then explore what all you can do. You can become a researcher, you can become a developer, you can become a scientist, something that is really not really growing in India as such, because a lot of the times someone who's taking science, they are just stuck with engineering and MBBS. But with things coming up, research associates are being picked up by labs these days. So much of research is going on, so you can actually be a part of history and create and research a lot of things and create probably something as well. The 4th year, like I said, gives you a few things. So first of all, if you have taken a major, you can convert that major in your 3 years into an advanced major in the 4th year. That means you will go deeper into the major by doing research over there, and you'll be doing the thesis, you'll be performing as a teaching assistant. You can also convert a minor that you did in those 3 years into an equivalent major. All right, and you can pursue a new minor altogether. So if you feel that in those 3 years you missed out on something, you wanted to pick up another subject but you didn't have time, you can do that in the 4th year. And this 4th year also acts as a 16th year of education. If you want to go to the States, to America, to do your master's degree or something, it performs as a 16th year of education. But I'll tell you, a lot of students actually stay back in the 4th year because they just want to study some more after they've studied for these 3 years. You realize that how fun studies can be, and how good it can be when you have such a nice faculty teaching you all these things. So students usually stay back out of their own interest. Like I said, the faculty is very, very prominent at Ashoka. If there's no point in having all the wonderful opportunities, all the wonderful labs, everything that is there, if you don't have a nice faculty to imply all those things. So we have 135 full-time and 46 visiting faculty members. Now, I won't take their names, but just look at where they are coming from. From Oxford to Sciences Po, to Northwestern, Harvard, Delhi School of Economics, Yale University, Cambridge, and look at who they are. They're all PhD. You can see PhD everywhere. What does that mean? That means that they have not just they have not just studied in these universities to do their doctorates, they've also taught at these universities. And another thing that a PhD implies is that they are all researchers, and they are all pioneers in their field. They are the ones who are leading the research in their field. All of these people, trust me, any research that is going on in this particular subject. So if any research is going on in history, Mahesh Rangarajan would be either leading it or he'll be in the loop about it. Any research that is going on in computer sciences, Debayan will be either leading it or he'll be in the loop about it. He'll have a good idea of what is happening in that. So they are all researchers as well. When they teach you, they don't go back to their houses and drink their chai and that's done for the day. No, they will be doing their own research work after they leave your classes, and you as students will also be helping these professors in the research work. So this is a research based university. A lot of research happens at Ashoka. Even when elections go on, our Pol Sciences department does a lot of studies, there's a lot of research, a lot of surveys are carried out by the government through Ashoka itself. So we are really, really involved in pretty much every research that happens in the country. A summer and semester abroad, you know how this works. You have an opportunity to go for a summer abroad or a semester abroad, and through the help of Ashoka you can do that. Any fee that is involved, it gets adjusted in the fee that you have given to us, and if there's any over the head cost, you get to know about that. And these are some of the students who've gone in the past, and these are some of the universities that we collaborate with. When I say collaboration, that doesn't only mean when summer and semester is abroad, but some of these universities have helped us in setting up our curriculum at Ashoka as well. Like Carleton University has helped us in setting up our computer sciences program. And these universities have regular faculty workshops as well, in which our faculty goes and becomes a part. And that's how we keep ourselves updated with what's happening around the world in these universities. See, these universities are top universities all around the world. They are leading the curriculum. They are deciding what should be taught to the students. So, when our faculty or Ashoka is a part of this, we are also updating our curriculum every single year to make sure that anyone who's here does not study something that is being outdated now. A lot of the times it happens, we study things that are outdated, and it really doesn't really help us in the long run. So we are just making sure that our curriculum is updated, the faculty is up to date with how and what is happening all around the world as well. Moving on now to the admissions process. The admissions process at Ashoka is a holistic admissions process. What does the word holistic means? The word holistic means that no one particular thing that you give us in the application, whether it's your 12th marks, whether it's your 10th marks, whether it's your academics, whether it's your extracurricular, no one thing will make sure that your admission is confirmed. There are no cutoffs at Ashoka, so even if you get a 97, 98, 99% will not ensure that you get an admission. So much so, we actually do not even work around board results. We work around the application that we ask you to fill. And within that application, even before you give your boards, we can make a decision whether or not you should get an offer at Ashoka or not. So we don't really require your 12th marks to make a decision to give you a confirmed offer. So the stage one comprises of the application and assessments. In the application, we require your academic scores. That means your class 10th and 11th mark sheets, along with your 12th expected or your predicted grades that you may get in your class 12. SAT, ACT scores are totally optional. They are not compulsory. They are not mandatory. If you have them, you can share them. If you don't have them, don't worry. It won't have an effect on your application at all. All right, there are 3 personal essays now, which are really, really the most important probably part of this application. You know how you have a statement of purpose in a lot of universities? We have broken that statement of purpose down into 3 essays. What that does is it gives you a very good opportunity to communicate to us in a more expressive and informal manner. जब कोई SOP आपको देता है, then what happens is over there you have to kind of you start talking in a very professional manner, that okay, my aim, my goal, and this thing. Whereas जब हम essays आपको देते हैं, there'll be 3 different questions over there. It will give you a better way to communicate to us basically. All right. Now, after your essays, one letter of recommendation. Again, this is not compulsory, but it is highly recommended. A letter of recommendation from your counselor, from your teacher, from your principal. It really helps in your application, going a long way. And lastly, your non-academic engagements, which are your extracurriculars. Now, another thing over here is, I get a lot of questions that's, Shaurya, tell me that, if I want to get into Ashoka and I have so many things that I'm participating in, what should I put over there? I always tell them that you have to share what you're passionate about, because we really don't look at how many certificates you got. We look at how you apply yourselves in that activity. You can be a music writer, you can be a musician with having not, participated in too many competitions, but you have enough music material that you can share with us, and we allow you to do that in the application itself. We don't ask you to upload certificates and all. We ask you to make presentations and share videos, photographs, testimonials. If you have your own compositions, if you've written something, share everything that you can. And we really want to see how you apply yourself rather than how many certificates you've got in an activity that you do. After your application is done, then we have our own Ashoka aptitude assessment, which is compulsory for everyone. Everyone has to give this. Even if you give your SAT, ACT, you still have to give the Ashoka aptitude assessment. And how that happens is, between your SAT, ACT, your 12 predicted grades, and Ashoka aptitude assessment, we take the best score that is there. All right. So even if you don't give us anything else, and if you just give us the Ashoka test, and that will be your best score basically. And if you give SAT also, and you give Ashoka aptitude assessment also, then even then the best score, only one score will be taken. And that's how we are able to give you, a decision before your board results come in as well, because we look at academics through our own tests and everything. And an on the spot essay which you have to write again, which is mandatory. After this stage one is done, when after your application is done, you've given the Ashoka assessment, you've given the on the spot essay, then we have to shortlist you. Only shortlisted students will go forward to the interview round. So not everyone makes it to the interview. That's why I emphasize always, it's very important to communicate, what you have to do in an application. You have to kind of show the best version of yourself through an application. That's it. That's all you have to do. And how do you do that? You first have to understand what the best version of yourself is, and only then you can communicate your best version across to someone else. So it's very important to engage well. That's why we say engage in the activities you do. Think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. Only then will you actually realize the importance of that in your life. All right, so only the shortlisted students move forward to the interview panel where the interview happens, and then we come back with the final decision, whether it's a confirmed offer, which means you already have a university admission. Even if you don't match your predicted grades, even if you score below what you have expected in your 12th, you'll still have the offer over there. So even if you just pass after getting a confirmed offer, your admission in the university is still final. Conditional offer is where you have to match your expected grades. Waitlisted is, it depends upon availability at the end of the year, and there is deferral and a denial of admission. When it comes to the financial aid, we don't ask for any finances. We don't ask for any application fee, no assessment fee, no on the spot essay fee. There is no fees involved until and unless we give you a confirmed offer. Only after we give you a full offer do we ask you, okay, you have to pay up the fee now. Do you need any financial aid help? We only offer a need-based financial aid. That means there is no merit help over here. Even if you score well, that will not guarantee your financial aid. But if you need the financial aid help, if you cannot afford studying at Ashoka and you have proven to us that you deserve to be over here, then we will give you that financial aid help. I'll talk about financial aid in just a couple of slides again. These are the timelines. These were the timelines for last year. Similarly, for this year again, applications should open up somewhere in the month of September, October. Now you can see there are 4 rounds in which you can apply. You can only apply in any one of these rounds. You cannot apply multiple times. So एक साल में आप एक बार apply कर सकते हो in any one of these rounds. First deadline usually is in November, then January, then March, then June. You can see, even if you give your application by November or Jan, you can have a full decision, a full admission to a university even before you sit for your board results, or depending on, whenever your board results are. So even if you apply in November, by November, you can get a full offer in the month of January itself. So you see how early in the year you can actually get a confirmed university admission, and that really reduces your tension and stress in the boards. And then assessment date is there, decision, acceptance, and then the session commences in the month of August around the 23rd. Talking about placements in higher education, anyone who is sat for a placement from Ashoka, we have 100% placement. So anyone who sits for a placement will get a job, offer over here. 250 companies plus 10.5 lakhs median salary and 25 lakhs per annum is the highest salary. These are some of the roles where students have been hired. So from consultants to developers to counselors, data scientists, investment, basically every profile that is there available, where you can do whatever you want, everything. The students get picked up for every profile. These are the industries that are coming to Ashoka, from banking, finance to management, consulting, technology, education, research, media, digital. And trust me, like I said in the starting of the presentation, if you remember, the critical thinking skills, communication skills, these are what employers are looking at. So we've had students in the past, even if you have a psychology degree, they can still go for a job in a banking and finance sector, in a management and consulting sector. Trust me, we have had students in the past who have done this, only because, the employers are looking at how you are, how you communicate, how you think, how can you solve problems. So if you can prove that to the employers, that's all they want to know, because everyone, trust me, can do any job that is there. It's just a matter of time when you get used to what you're doing, and then you can excel at what you're doing. But what you cannot do is have those critical thinking skills and all these other skills that if you don't apply yourselves, you'll never be able to develop these skills. And these skills, trust me, they make you smarter. I'll just use this first. They make you smarter. Nothing else makes you smarter than having an actively engaged brain. All right. And if you don't want to sit for a placement, you have an option to do your masters. If you want to do them right after the graduation, we have our own office, which will help you, whether it's internships, whether it's deciding what job you want to pick, whether it's deciding whether you want to go and study abroad or in India itself. We have our own office and we'll help you out. You know how clubs and societies work. We have the clubs and societies. They're all student-run clubs and societies. Okay, no faculty, no teacher is involved. So they are all student-run. And if there's a particular society that you feel you want to start, you can always do that as well. Sports and fitness. Once the campus opens up, you have these opportunities. There is a swimming pool, multi-purpose basketball, badminton, squash courts, cricket, football, volleyball. We also have a shooting range and a gymnasium with the latest equipment that is there. Lastly, the finances, like I said, so the fees is 9.87 lakhs per annum. We offer a need-based financial aid. And if you look at these stats over here, 50% of the students, 50% of the students are on 50% financial aid. 50% of the students are on a financial aid. That means anywhere from 25% to a full 100%, they have, their fee discounted basically. 120 on 100% financial scholarship, and 8% with less than 2 lakhs and 10% first generation college goals. So you can see how we really are emphasizing on need-based financial aid and not merit-based, because when you give a merit financial, we won't have been able to give so many students the help that they require when it comes to finances. We, after you get a confirmed offer, you fill in the application, you give the interview, and you get a confirmed offer. Only after that we ask you, can you afford it? Are your parents in the position to pay for this? If not, then you apply for the financial aid and we'll help you out. We'll help you pay for this, because you have proven to us that you can study at Ashoka and you have the caliber to, do your degree from here. So we'll help you out with whatever you need. So that's how the financial aid works, and works really, really wonderfully. And we really always are very, very proud of, the financial aid help that we give. And lastly, 600 class size from 18 different countries, 105 cities, 342 schools, 56% women, 43% men, 1% gender. So everyone, not just from India, but from other parts of the world, is also coming to Ashoka to study and just experience the life over here. Lastly, these are my details. You can take a screenshot of this. You can always reach out to me. You can write an email to me. You can call me up. You can drop a WhatsApp message if you have any doubts and queries. I'll be more than happy to address them, at any point of the year. I think I'm done with my presentation. So I'm open to taking some questions now. I'm sorry, ma'am, you're on mute, I think.
Now we will now move into the question and answers part of this session. So please raise your hand for the queries and Mr. Shaurya will address them. So Lakshaki, first of all, want to ask?
Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Lakshaki. How are you?
I'm fine, sir. What about you?
I'm great. I am very happy to be here and very happy to hear lovely voice as well. So go ahead, ask your question, and I'll try to answer it my best.
Yeah, sir. Sure. So, sir, as you told us about the major courses in your university, in the Ashoka University, I want to basically ask that are there any other language major courses besides English?
All right. Excellent question. So what happens over here is the language courses, Lakshaki, sorry, they come under the co-curriculars. All right. So you won't be able to do language as a major or a minor, but as a co-curricular along with your major and minor. So in that language, you can literally, we have a lot of options from German, Spanish, French, Mandarin. What happens is, we take a survey every semester and see how many students are interested in what all languages there are. And the top 3 languages or the top 4 languages, we take those and the students have an option to study those languages then. But as a part of your co-curriculums.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Shreyansh, would you like to ask any?
Sir, I have just a simple question. I
Yeah.
am much more interested in towards the entrepreneurship after that. So, are there any specific courses for that as well?
Shreyansh, we have entrepreneurship as a minor, but I'll tell you something. Ashoka really, really encourages students to get into entrepreneurial activities, and we have our own incubators. That means we have our own startup systems in the university, which will help you into developing ideas. If you have an idea to start your own organization, company, and activity, we help you with that. Where it comes to raising money for that or just developing an idea, we also help in that aspect. We have our own center for entrepreneurship, where you have dedicated people who are young and very, very professional entrepreneurs of our country, which will guide you as well. So when it comes to studies, yes, you can also study that as a minor, but at the same time, in the practical way, you can also really apply yourselves in the entrepreneurial aspect at Ashoka.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
No worries, Shreyansh.
Now, Pradhan, can you ask? You want to ask anything?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, sir.
Good
So
morning.
I have few questions, sir. In the initial, in the beginning of the presentation, you tell about the jobs will disappear in the future. So there is a job of pilots and there are in hotel management. So people opt as if they have a commerce, but they are not having a job through their commerce field, and they choose for like these. So the qualification also will getting the minor support that people not opting for them. That's why it will going to disappear.
Okay, great question, Pratham. Now, that's a very interesting point that you make, actually. See, what happens is the demand of a particular thing will drive the supply for that as well. Right? We understand how that economic structure works. So if there is a demand for architectures or architects or pilots, it will also drive the supply within the universities for that. But because of the fact now, like I said, for example, even take the example of a software developer these days. Software developing has become more of an activity than like a skill. You can study the software, you can study software development on your own itself, because there are so many softwares that are there now which will help you to develop new softwares as well, so that you really don't need that undergrad degree or a specification in that. Similarly with architects as well, because of the new softwares coming up, it becomes very kind of easy to design your own ideas if you are inclined towards that. So any sort of specialization is not required, and these jobs are kind of running out as well. The demand for software developers, if you go down Bangalore, if you see the silicon industry of India, software developers are running out of jobs, and they are looking at how to do different things. They are looking at different entrepreneurial ways where they can expand their business. But yeah, in the future, we are definitely going to see a decline in the degrees also from these particular, fields.
Thank you, sir. And my second question is that if we have a graduation and we got a placement and we have potential, we got the placement, we are working over there, and we have a potential that we can do mastery side by side. So the mastery will have some kind of positive point towards the job we are doing. It's a kind of promotion or something like that.
So let me understand, Pratham. So basically, I'll tell you what happens is, like I said, you can either pick up a job or you can do your masters. Usually it's very, very hard to do both at the same time. So you can only choose one of these things. Now, what a master's does is, at the undergrad level, what happens is you just form a base again. Like in your school, you study multiple things and you form a base so that you can take whatever you want in the universities. Now, with this liberal education, what this does is it gives you again a wider base. For someone like me who did his BCom honors, my base gets narrowed. I can only follow commerce from there. I can do my masters in, like I did my masters in financial accounting and management. I could have done the masters in very limited scope over here. But through a liberal education degree, again, your base gets, broadened. If you're taking entrepreneurship along with economics with Pol Sciences, you have so many things you can master in. What a master's does is, master's gives you a specialization in a particular field. So I'm a master of financial management and accounting. That means I can master that particular field of accounting and financial management, and that makes me employable in that particular field. So your master's gives you a specialization, whereas your undergrad gives you a base for that specialization. And that's why students go for masters. And that's why sometimes students will, take a job for a while, get deeper into that, understand what is asked from their job, and then make up a mind to do their masters. So masters will give you a more focused specialization into the field you are sure you may want to work in.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Now, Tushar, would you like to ask, sir, anything?
Yes, ma'am.
Please.
Good morning, sir.
Hi, Tushar. Good morning. How are you?
Fine, sir.
Very, very friendly face, Tushar, you have. So nice to see you. Thanks for turning on your camera. Yeah, go
Thank you,
ahead.
sir. So I wanted to ask that can we apply for the Ashoka entrance exam side by side the 12th board examinations, or we can do it next year as well?
Okay, so Tushar, you don't have to apply for the Ashoka assessment. It's part of your application. So when you apply, say, our applications come out in the month of October, and you decide to apply in the first round itself. So in the first round itself, there'll be a particular date when you will be giving the Ashoka assessment mandatorily, compulsory hota hai wo to. So, if your deadline for your application is 19th of November, then on the 25th of November, there'll be a test happening for everyone who's applied in that particular round. So everyone will give that test online only, but everyone will give that test on that particular date. So it's done automatically.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, Tanvi, would you like to ask?
Yes, ma'am. A very good morning, sir.
Good morning, Tanvi.
Sir, I just wanted to ask that on what basis do you select students for financial aid?
All right. So Tanvi, like I said, the financial aid at Ashoka is only need based. When I say need based, it means we only look at the affordability. When I say affordability, I mean we only look at your finances that your parents may have, because eventually, I'm so sorry, excuse me. Eventually, they are the ones who will be paying for your education. So what we do is, we don't first of all ask for any financial, information in depth when you're applying. We only ask for basic, like what is your family income, what is your mother's income, what is your father's income, what work they do. We don't ask for anything else. The reason we don't do that is because we don't discriminate on the basis of finances, first of all. After you apply, you give the interview, say you get a full offer from Ashoka University. We give you a full confirmed offer. Then we ask you that, would you like to apply for the financial aid? When you apply for the financial aid, there is another process for that, where, you have to fill up a financial aid form. We ask for the income tax return of your parents. We ask for a letter where they can write about the future plans that they may have, any investment plans that they have, what assets they own, what are the expenses and income for the year. And then after looking at everything, we see, okay, the fees at Ashoka is 9.87 lakhs per annum. Will they be able to afford it? And then anything ranging from 25% to a full 100%. So nothing below 25% is given. Minimum 25% is financial aid is given to anyone who qualifies. So anything between 25% to a full 100% is then given to you. But we only do this after we give you a confirmed offer, and it's only need based. So it does not matter if you score well also, but if you really, really need the financial aid, then only you will get. I'll give a quick example. Someone who scored a 95% and someone who scored an 85%, but the 85% has more need for that finance, that 85% student will get the financial aid help.
All right, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Shaurya.
Not at all, ma'am. My pleasure.
Yeah. So I would like to say thank you so much, Mr. Shaurya, for such an interesting and knowledgeable session.
My
and
pleasure.
Your valuable inputs with our students, and I make sure that they will use in the days to come. So thank you so much, dear. So
thank you so much, ma'am. If you don't mind, I just want to share a link with them of a quiz quiz that they can do it at their own time. Okay. I'm just sharing that. Just give me 1 second. So students, I'll be just sharing a link with you. Now, this is a quiz that I have created for just the students who attend my session. And the reason I do this is just to make sure that whatever you have done through this presentation or whatever I have done through this presentation, you are able to understand what I have been saying. So I'm just sharing the link in the chat box. Just have a look at that, and I'll be really glad if you can just fill up this small quiz, and it will give you an idea that if you have understood what liberal education is, what the myths and facts are about it. All right, thank you so much, ma'am. I'll let you carry on.
Thank you. Thanks again, and hope to see you again.
Very, very soon. Everyone, all the best. It was a
Wish
pleasure.
you all the best, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye bye. See you. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for joining. Now you can see the link also on this recording of this session on YouTube also. So link will be shared. So thank you, dear. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Bye
Thank
bye.
you, ma'am.
Now you can leave.
Thank you,
Yeah,
ma'am.
Meenal, you want to ask?
No, ma'am, I was just thanking you.
Thank you so much, dear. Bye bye. Thanks, everyone.